I passed my humiliation ritual with all honors, with flying colors. But the only difference between my humiliation ritual and a lot of others is I was walking with God the whole time. Being deeply rooted in prayer, deeply in search of answers, and deeply rooted and grounded in the palms of his hands through the process of this whole humiliation ritual.
Whoever made that complex list, I just want to let you know something, man. Your ass need to go do rock and roll or some other shit. I swear to God, 21, 18 platinum, 6 or 7 gold. Go look at the certifications. Let me know who beat me, bro.
It started with one statement, calm, almost poetic, but it sent shockwaves through the internet. Katt Williams wasn't joking this time. This wasn't part of a comedy routine or some viral soundbite. This was a warning, because behind that quiet confidence was something deeper, a man who's seen how the machine really works. The kind of knowledge you only get after being burned by fame, chewed by the industry, and left to rebuild in silence. He said he walked with God through the ritual, but who was he really talking to? And what ritual was he referring to? Some fans said it sounded like spiritual reflection. Others, they heard confession. And when you put that next to what he said later about new artists and hidden deals, that's when people started connecting the dots. And one name kept coming up, NLE Choppa. The internet started buzzing. Was this another Katt Williams moment? Or was he about to expose something the culture wasn't ready to face? Because the way Katt framed it, it didn't sound like paranoia. It sounded like a man speaking from experience.
I wanted to not necessarily apologize, but I wanted to explain like where my head at and where it's been for like the last week. So first of all, when I did the artwork, I knew like there would be some upset people or whatnot, simply because, you know, religion is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. But I also didn't mean to like mock. This wasn't like a to you people, to the Christians, like, you know, it was not that. It was literally me saying, oh, I'm back like Jesus. Like that was like the whole thing. I'm not the first person to dress up as Jesus.
See, that's the part that made people pause, because when Katt starts mixing jokes with facts, that's when you know something's real. He wasn't just defending his legacy, he was establishing credibility before dropping the bomb. This was Katt saying, I'm not bitter, I'm proven. He's been in this industry long enough to understand how the spotlight works, how it blinds some and exposes others. And when he says he's seen it all, you better believe that includes the parts most fans never hear about. It's not about charts or plaques anymore. It's about who controls the stage, who decides what kind of artist rises, and what kind of soul it costs them to get there. That's why, when Katt started calling out the list makers and the system itself, fans realized this wasn't a comedy set. It was testimony. And right after that moment, he pivoted. The jokes faded, and the truth began to spill directly into NLE Choppa's lane.
Most people's number one fear is public humiliation, okay? I don't give a anymore. I'm not afraid of it, because I've had plenty.
When Katt said it, you could feel the tone shift. He wasn't laughing anymore. The punchline vanished. This was a man describing the cost of fame, not in money, but in spirit. And the target of that message? A rapper who's been wearing spirituality like a crown, NLE Choppa. To most fans, Choppa's rise looked like growth, from chaos to calm, from violence to vibration. But to Katt, it looked like something else, a transaction. He called it a spiritual price, and those words hit like a confession from behind closed doors. Because if you followed Choppa's evolution, you know the change was too sharp to ignore. 1 year, he's talking about shootouts. The next, he's healing the world. And that's when the questions started. Was Choppa's enlightenment real? Or was it purchased? Because Katt didn't just suggest a shift, he implied a sacrifice. That's the part fans couldn't shake off. He wasn't naming names, but the message was clear enough for the internet to do the math. And once that happened, everything changed.
I passed my humiliation ritual with all honors, with flying colors.
But here's where it got real strange. Choppa claimed he did his ritual while walking with God, said he was praying, meditating, staying close to faith through the process.
But the only difference between my humiliation ritual and a lot of others is I was walking with God the whole time. Being deeply rooted in prayer, deeply in search of answers, and deeply rooted and grounded in the palms of his hands through the process of this whole humiliation ritual.
That's where the puzzle deepens, because right after Katt's statement, NLE Choppa himself spoke up. And instead of brushing off the rumors or denying the energy around him, he sounded conflicted. He didn't come out swinging. He didn't mock the talk about rituals or God. He explained himself. And that's what made fans stop scrolling. Because usually when a rapper's accused of something wild, they clap back instantly. But Choppa didn't. He reflected. He said he didn't mean to mock religion, didn't mean to offend anyone. But the more he explained, the more people wondered, what exactly was he apologizing for? Because if it wasn't about mocking faith, then maybe it was about something deeper, the energy behind the art itself. And that's what Katt's words had already hinted at, the idea that Choppa's spiritual awakening might not be awakening at all, but a costume, a role that came with fame, light, and maybe a contract written in silence. It's no longer about who's right or wrong, it's about what's real. And the more Choppa tried to clear things up, the more blurred it became.
Whoever made that complex list, I just want to let you know something, man. Your ass need to go do rock and roll or some other shit. I swear to God, 21, 18 platinum, 6 or 7 gold. Go look at the certifications. Let me know who beating me, bruh.
And right there, that's where the internet split in half. Because on one side, you had fans saying Choppa was being misunderstood, but on the other, people started replaying Katt's words with new meaning. See, when someone says it wasn't about mocking Jesus, before anyone even accuses them, that's not defense, that's preparation. It's a man who knows what people are whispering before they even hit post. And that's why Katt's spiritual price comment started echoing louder. Because Choppa wasn't just talking like an artist, he was talking like someone trying to convince himself he's still grounded. When fame gets this heavy, the line between self-expression and self-sacrifice starts to blur. And if Katt's right, that fame comes with a price, then maybe Choppa's trying to show he's already paying it, just in a different currency. He's not mocking religion, he's chasing meaning inside an industry built on illusion. And the more he talks about connection to the universe, the more people start asking, who exactly is he connected to? Because in Hollywood and hip-hop, not every light comes from heaven.
And I felt like that day, I kind of released a small bit of it. And I think in the process of me releasing that, that was the first time in a long time you kind of seen that glimpse of me. But when I recorded the first video that I made of me passing my humiliation ritual, I say that to say I was extremely angry. I was not calm.
That line, I'm not signed to no devil, I'm signed to God, that's when it got spiritual and suspicious at the same time. Because when artists feel the need to say that out loud, it usually means someone, somewhere, is whispering the opposite. And here's what makes it eerie. This isn't the first time a young star's had to prove their light in the middle of rumors about darkness. From Doja Cat to Lil Nas X to even Kanye, the industry has a strange habit of turning faith into a performance. But Katt wasn't buying the show. To him, what Choppa called energy looked more like initiation. Because when you start mixing purpose with profit, somebody always benefits more than the artist. And Katt, who's been through the industry's highest highs and darkest rituals, wasn't just warning Choppa, he was warning anyone still dreaming about fame. He's saying, you can pray over your studio all you want, but if the contract ain't holy, the blessings won't be either. And the chilling part? Choppa might not even realize who he's really proving himself to. Because in this game, signing to purpose sounds noble, until you find out who's been writing the fine print behind it.
Be gay in Hollywood, you never expected. They be having these big mansion parties, and the mansion party, the whole mansion is a party, and then it's a separate party in the little rooms. I ain't been famous that goddamn long. I'm excited in a be at the mansion party. You be looking in all the goddamn rooms, and you around and look in the wrong room.
That was the first time Choppa fired back, and it was personal. He wasn't just defending himself, he was drawing a line between generations. To Choppa, this wasn't mentorship, it was judgment. He saw Katt as one of those older legends who can't stand to see the next generation win differently. But to fans, that's where the tension really started to shift, because when you strip away the fame, the numbers, the money, this moment wasn't about music. It was about what happens when the student starts rejecting the teacher. Katt's words hit like prophecy, but Choppa's response hit like pride. And pride, in this industry, is like gasoline. It only takes one spark to set everything off. He wanted to make it clear, the new wave doesn't owe anyone approval. But what Choppa didn't realize is that every rebellion has a cost. And when you go against someone like Katt, someone who's survived the system you're still learning to navigate, you're not just fighting a man, you're fighting memory, influence, and reputation. And that's when the internet started asking, was Choppa defending his generation or digging his own grave?
I don't care who you are. I ain't taking no slice from nobody, right? I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God. That's the only person that I serve. My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
Me too.
You understand?
Yeah, I'm Christian.
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You know, out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize.
They can't control you. They can't. They try to suppress you, but that's how they try to categorize
They
you.
can't control me. You get what I'm saying? They can control Shaq. They can control Charles Barkley. They can control LeBron James. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Not you, man.
But they can't control me.
Now that's when Choppa doubled down. He wasn't just talking to Katt anymore. He was talking past him, to the entire industry watching from the sidelines. The tone wasn't defensive, it was defiant. Because for every young artist coming up now, there's this unspoken pressure to play the game, to bow to the hidden hierarchy that decides who gets radio play, sponsorships, and silence. But Choppa's generation moves differently. They don't care about old gatekeepers. They build their own gates. TikTok, YouTube, streams, direct-to-fan culture. That's their arena. Still, here's the irony. For someone saying he doesn't answer to gatekeepers, Choppa spent a lot of time explaining himself to one. And that's what made the moment sting. Because to the viewers who've watched Katt fight his own battles against Hollywood's machine, this wasn't just a disagreement. It was a generational disconnect. Katt came from an era where silence meant survival. Choppa came from an era where silence means you're losing the algorithm. So when the two worlds collided, the old-school survivor versus the new-school rebel, you could feel the culture split right down the middle. And as that clip started circulating, Katt's fans said he was right again. But Choppa's fans? They started calling Katt a gatekeeper in disguise. That's when the real storm began.
They tried to medicate me. I was exhausted. They wrongly diagnosed me. And when I asked them, how much lithium did you want to put me on exactly? It took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount, right? And I refused to take this, right? You understand that if I had taken the medication, I would not be here, and it would have been, oh, he was deeply troubled. We miss him. We love his music, though.
Well, they would have Britney Spears.
That's when the whole tone shifted. Katt wasn't cracking jokes anymore. He was preaching survival, and that hit different. Because when Katt says he's seen it all, he's not exaggerating. He's been the rising star, the headline, the scapegoat, and the punchline, sometimes all in the same week. He's watched the industry chew through talent like it's disposable, and he's watched how fame rewires people, how it feeds them confidence one day and conspiracy the next. So when he looks at someone like Choppa, it's not jealousy, it's déjà vu. He's seeing another young artist walking into the same machine that almost broke him. But the difference is, Katt lived long enough to decode it. That's why he talks the way he does, like a prophet in a world that only listens to trending sounds. He's not fighting Choppa, he's fighting the cycle. And while the internet tried to turn it into beef, Katt was really giving a blueprint. Protect your mind, protect your spirit, protect your art. But here's the haunting part. Even with that warning, Choppa's next move would prove just how deep this divide really goes. Because even with that warning hanging heavy in the air, Choppa's next move would prove just how deep this divide really goes. He didn't clap back in anger. He didn't post a response or hop on live like he usually would. Instead, he went silent. total blackout. No tweets, no stories, not even a cryptic post, just quiet. But sometimes silence speaks louder than any defense ever could, and that's exactly what made fans spiral. Because when you live in an era where artists respond to everything, a lack of reaction feels like confirmation. That's when people started digging, old interviews, old tweets, hidden symbolism in videos, like detectives trying to solve a mystery only Katt hinted at. They replayed footage of Choppa's meditation sessions, the candlelit visuals, the rebirth imagery, and suddenly, what used to look like spiritual awakening started looking more like initiation. The theories were wild, some claiming Choppa was under label influence, others saying he'd been spiritually compromised. But beneath all the chaos was something quieter, something real, people's growing distrust of the entire system. Because whether or not Choppa did anything wrong, Katt's message hit a nerve. Maybe because, deep down, everyone already sensed something off about the industry's new, enlightened phase. Suddenly, fans weren't just asking about Choppa, they were asking who else. How many other artists turned spiritual overnight after label shakeups or personal scandals? How many others went from chaos to calm right after hitting rock bottom in public? It's like Katt cracked open a hidden truth, and the light spilling through was too uncomfortable to look at directly. Because what if this wasn't about Choppa at all? What if it was about how the entire machine repackages broken artists as prophets once they've been through enough humiliation to obey? That idea, that fame isn't about art anymore, but obedience, spread like wildfire across social media. Twitter threads, TikTok breakdowns, Reddit deep dives. Fans started comparing Choppa's transformation to Kanye's awakening, Doja's symbolism, and even what Britney went through, the same cycle of breakdown, silence, and rebranding under freedom. And that's when people started seeing the pattern Katt was talking about. It's not that these artists don't believe in spirituality, it's that their spirituality gets marketed, monetized, and manipulated until it becomes another performance. And once the world buys into it, the industry cashes out, again. That's the part that hit the hardest. Because if fame really is a spiritual battlefield, then who's actually winning? The artist seeking peace, or the system selling their transformation as content? Choppa's fans, meanwhile, were divided. Half believed Katt was exposing real demons, literal or metaphorical, that run this game. The other half said he was jealous, old, paranoid. But even those who defended Choppa couldn't deny one thing. Katt's words felt true, not factual, but emotionally true. Like the kind of truth you don't need proof for because you've seen it too many times. The same story, just with new names every year. An artist rises, falls, disappears, comes back reborn, and the public claps, not realizing they're watching a ritual of control disguised as redemption. And if you think about it, Katt's message wasn't really about calling Choppa out. It was about calling everyone out. Artists, fans, executives, influencers, all playing a part in the illusion. Because fame, at its core, isn't evil. It's energy. But in the wrong hands, energy turns into a weapon. And the way Katt framed it, they don't just want your music, they want your spirit too. That wasn't poetry. That was a warning. A warning from someone who's lived long enough to see how this game eats its own. Meanwhile, Choppa's silence turned from curiosity to tension. Weeks passed, still no word. But behind the scenes, his image seemed cleaner than ever. New sponsorships, interviews about manifestation, product launches tied to self-healing. And that's when fans started asking the question nobody wanted to touch. If Katt's wrong, why does it all line up so perfectly? It's almost poetic in a twisted way. The man accused of exposing the machine ends up proving it just by speaking, and the artist accused of being controlled ends up fitting the role even tighter by saying nothing at all. It's that uncomfortable symmetry that made this story viral, not because people believed every word, but because it reminded them of something deeper. That fame, no matter how positive it looks on the surface, often comes with shadows, and sometimes the people preaching light are the ones standing closest to the dark. Katt knew what he was doing. He didn't name drop for clout. He framed the narrative like a mirror, letting the audience decide what reflection they see. And what they saw wasn't just NLE Choppa. It was the cost of authenticity in a world where everything, even peace, has a PR team. Because once spirituality becomes branding, it's not enlightenment anymore. It's marketing. That's why this whole debate hit beyond hip-hop. It wasn't just a generational clash, it was spiritual versus synthetic, authenticity versus aesthetics. And whether you believe in rituals or not, the symbolism was clear. People are tired of being sold healing by the same system that profits off pain. That's what makes Katt's voice matter. He's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes wrong, but he's real, and realness, in an age of curated perfection, feels like rebellion. Because let's be honest, you can call Katt crazy, but crazy people don't stay right for 20 years straight. They don't keep exposing patterns that come true later. They don't risk their careers repeating the same warnings if it didn't matter. And maybe that's what's bothering the industry the most. He's not supposed to still have a platform. He's not supposed to be believed, but when he speaks, the world still listens. Not because they trust him, but because deep down, they don't trust them. And that's where this story really hits, in the quiet space between what's said and what's felt. Because it's easy to dismiss conspiracy talk until the patterns start repeating in front of your eyes. Different artists, same script, different packaging, same players. Every era needs a chosen one, someone they push to represent the light. But maybe what Katt's trying to say is that light doesn't always come from God. Sometimes it comes from the spotlight, and the spotlight burns. So when he said, "Ask what shadow that light came from," he wasn't being cryptic, he was being literal. Because behind every success story we celebrate, there's often a deal we don't see, a silence we don't question, and a cost that never makes the headlines. And maybe, just maybe, Choppa's story isn't over yet. Maybe this silence isn't guilt. Maybe it's confusion. Maybe he's realizing in real time that fame's spiritual side ain't all sage and meditation bowls. It's energy exchange, and someone always leaves drained. That's the tension Katt exposed, the difference between awakening and marketing, between saving your soul and selling it wrapped in enlightenment. And in the end, whether you believe Katt's accusations or not, one thing's undeniable. He's forcing a conversation the industry's terrified to have. A conversation about the cost of growth when the people funding your peace are the same ones who profit from your pain. It's the kind of story that doesn't fade with time. It lingers, like static in the background of every new artist who preaches love after surviving chaos. Because now every fan will ask the same quiet question: is this healing or programming? That's the genius and tragedy of what Katt Williams just did. He didn't destroy anyone's reputation. He shattered the illusion that fame and faith can coexist without consequence. And now, everyone's watching, waiting to see if Choppa's silence breaks, or if Katt's prophecy comes true. Either way, this ain't just gossip anymore. It's a reflection of how much we're willing to ignore for the sake of a good story. Because maybe the truth about Hollywood isn't hiding. Maybe it's performing right in front of us, smiling, meditating, and saying, "I'm free," while the strings pull tighter behind the curtain. And that's the part Katt's been warning us about from the start. The illusion of freedom in a system built on control, the price of light in a world addicted to darkness, and the silence that follows when someone finally calls it out. So whether you see him as prophet or madman, one thing's for sure. Katt Williams just reminded everybody that in Hollywood, nothing is ever what it seems. And for NLE Choppa, the silence might just be the loudest statement of all. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need to be said, it just needs to be felt. And don't go anywhere. Click the next video you see on your screen for even more juicy celebrity chaos, betrayals, and stories Hollywood doesn't want you to know. See you in the next one.